Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. In this lecture we will discuss another model of second language acquisition, that is the acculturation model. It was proposed by John Schuman. Uh, he talks about the members of ethnic minorities that typically include immigrants, migrant workers, or the children of such groups, that the people who move from one place to another, like uh, in the area of Digikhan, the majority group is Sraiki speaking, and those who are Balochi speakers or Punjabi speakers, they move there. They will be called immigrants and migrant workers. Migrant workers here again, you can take example of people moving from Pakistan to Saudi Arabia, UAE, England, America. Those who go there for work, so they are the immigrants and migrant workers. This uh, learning of language, it takes place in natural context, that you don't need to attend any classes, but you learn language in an environment where your target language is spoken all around. You go to UK, you don't have any knowledge of English, you start living there, but when you have to communicate with everyone, those who speak English, then you start learning it in natural environment. So culturation model is actually tells us about the culture, that culturally we have to uh, understand and we have to learn the target language in natural context. uh, the process of being adopted to a new culture. Acculturation is a term. It means that you move from one place to another. Like, you are a migrant worker, you move from Pakistan to England, you start living there. You have your own culture that we have in Pakistan, but you have to adopt a new culture there, a new culture of Britain, how they speak, how they behave, and how do they live. Like a very common example, you can say the girls who live in Pakistan, they wear natural, take dupatta and shalwar kameez they wear in Pakistan. But when the girls they move to England from Pakistan, I talk about the women, those who move there, they do not feel any hesitation to wear jeans and shirt and with open hair. So although it's a negative impact of the culture, because as Muslims we cannot afford it religiously, but uh, talking about this specific topic of a acculturation model, this is how we adopt to a new culture. When we adopt ourselves to a new culture, then we have to live socially according to their culture, and we have to speak according to their culture, as we are concerned with language acquisition. So in this model, the culture plays the most important role in learning a language, that you move from one culture to another. And culture is one of the integral or the basic part of human being, because wherever you are born, for example, I mean, the importance of culture, you can get an idea about it, that you live, for example, a person who is born in a village where there is no Urdu or English language spoken, they speak only Punjabi, and they have no one is educated there. But someone from the village, he starts learning, and he became a MBBS doctor. So even if he is an MBBS doctor, he will be working in a city, but through his language, in his living, to some extent, at some point, he will show his the culture where he or she has been brought up. So the brought up and your culture, they have very close connection, that whatever the culture is there in your genes, it will reflect for the whole of your life, wherever you move, wherever you live. As in this way we can understand the importance of culture in the lives of human beings. So again, This model is based on social and psychological aspects. As we have had socio-psychological model that was actually based towards motivational level and social and psychological aspects, but this acculturation model will not be having will be more inclined towards culture. And again, social and psychological aspects are always there, because wherever you live, whenever you learn a second language, there are two most important things. One, your own thinking about the target language, and the other is the environment where you live, the society where you live. So these two things will always be there in every model, wherever you go, whatever the language you learn. And in this acculturation model, the focus will be adopting from one culture to the new culture. Uh, the culture of target language definitely depends upon social and psychological factors. Uh, Learners can identify themselves with with the members of TL target language group and can achieve contact with them. That uh, as I gave you example, that people, the migrant workers, they move from Pakistan to England, they start living there, so they develop a contact with them, a working relationship with them. And once the contact is developed between the migrant workers and uh, the majority language ethnic majority language group, then a process of acculturation, adopting yourself to new culture starts. And when you start adopting yourself to new culture, definitely the language is also, the target language is also becomes part of your culture. When you learn a new culture, I mean, when you move from your culture to another culture, so you cannot adopt yourself to another culture unless and until you learn or you acquire a language of the of the culture that you have to adopt, or that you have to change yourself. Then we have um, and this is called a social distance. This is not the social distance as we have nowadays in COVID-19 pandemic. They say that make a have a social distance. Here social distance means that there is a societal difference between the minority group migrant workers and the majority language group, the dominant language. But it this social distance, it reduces as the contact is developed between both the groups. So don't get confused with the social distance of as World Health Organization has asked to wear mask and social distance about corona pandemic. So we are talking here about the two language groups, the minority and majority language groups, the social distance between the two groups, not between the people. uh, and there is a social distance and there is a psychological distance. Social distance between the two groups of language speakers, and psychological distance is that how much easy for a learner is to learn a second language, or difficult to learn a second language. So the target language or the second language, when there is a less psychological distance, the learners, they start learning the target or the second language with more ease or with more convenience. And apart from this social distance and psychological distance, in this model, there are eight factors that influence the social distance. As we discussed, that the social distance, a contact is developed between the minority group and the majority group. Minority group means the people who migrated from Pakistan to England, and the majority group means the people who are already living there. So, there are eight important factors. One is social dominance, definitely social dominance by the target language, integration pattern, enclosure, cohesiveness, size factor, culture, and others. So these all eight factors, they will be discussed in detail in our next lecture. And three factors in psychological distance. So in this model, acculturation model, we came across two factors. One was social distance and one was psychological distance. In social distance, there are eight factors that influence the learning of second language. And in psychological distance, there are three factors, that is motivation, attitude, and cultural shock. And there is language shock also. So the eight factors in social distance and three factors in psychological distance will be discussed in next lesson.